welcome back to the Peter H channel. This isn't going according to plan. I meant to film this on a different camera and it's got no battery, so it's out there on charge. I'm going to film the restart of the motor on this mobile phone. Not the neatest fabrication in the world, but it was a bit fiddly. That's on there, holding the metal water pipe, holding it really well actually. That clip you can't get anymore. New head gasket, new base gasket. Been sitting here a few days now with some oil in it, nothing coming out the bottom. Fitted the rear brake. There's nothing to explain here. There's water in the radiator, nothing's dripping. It's been stood for a day or two with some more oil in the crank. It should have the right amount of oil in the crank there. And funny how Yamaha put the brake pedal right in front of the oil reader. It's a bit tricky to actually ever read it. It's reading that there's oil in there. After it runs for a bit, that might change. I've got to adjust the oil pump if and when. I've got to say when it gets running, because exhaust is on. Got to say, I did a compression test and it's about 75. It hasn't actually changed the compression, which was a bit of a surprise. I've run out of easy start, so there is no easy start, and this is the first restart of this bike. It's going to be difficult holding the phone and doing. So I've put a little bit of petrol in my auxiliary tank. I'm in quite a hurry to actually see if this will start. Like I say, I've got to readjust the carburetor. I haven't touched the mixture, but because I didn't know really what the problem was, the idle speed's been messed about with a lot, so it might idle a bit fast, which will be a problem. Anyway, so let's go with this. I was gonna prop the camera up somewhere, but I think I'll hold the camera, which is a bit crazy. Hope I don't get electric shock on the groin or something. Okay, so the neutral light does work, so that's a good thing. I'm going to put the choke out on this carb. I'll explain about the carb. Oops, that wasn't a very good sign. There's a bit of a rattle going on. Well, it's a runner, no question about it. But it does have this, there's a knock, which is a bit alarming, I've got to say. Oh, there's a hell of a knock, isn't there? Sounds like the crankshaft's about to give up on me. Yeah. Well, I think Mysterious Rider, you were right, mate. I think that crankshaft's had it. Maybe it don't need the choke anymore. Perhaps it does need the choke then. Oh no, I haven't turned the fuel on. Dear oh dear, I didn't turn the fuel on. What a pillock. I might need a little bit of coaxing to get it started then. Whew. Thought I'd turn the fuel on. Well, it's going to run because it's fired over already, so it's a question of. I could attach this actually as the temperature sender. Ugh. Each moment, I suppose the carburetor is filling up with fuel, more vapours are floating about. And I can't get the temperature sender on there about starting again. I don't want to do that. I'm excited now. Right, it did turn over a little bit, so signs of life, mate, I tell you. fun with two hands. Don't need to do the oil pump just yet. Alright, well there's plenty to be getting on with, but I don't like that banging. It sounds like there's something wrong. I mean, maybe I did something to the head or something. Maybe I just don't know what that sound is all about, but it sounds to me like the crankshaft's about to drop off. Or the piston is hitting the top of the cylinder or something, I don't know. It could be anything. The carburettor is very similar to the 3BN carburettor that was originally with it. This is a Chinese carburettor that cost me 22 quid, and as you can see it's virtually brand new, and I've already gone through about a litre of petrol actually. If I turn the petrol on, you can probably see straight away the float chamber is over flooding, and it's there without me even running the engine. So I'm not going to be able to. I did manage to set the two-stroke pump. Can't really set it up with it all like that. So it's got to be. I've got to get the carburetor off. I might fit the old Mikuni on, but you know how it is when I bought a refurb kit and it started leaking again. And if you're not a qualified motor mechanic, you can't really take the parts back. So you know, don't buy cheap parts. That's the only thing. Like, this is not a recommended carburetor, even though it says Mikuni on it. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, I mean it's obviously a Chinese knockoff of a Mikuni, but like I say, my other Mikuni, well, so these old float chambers, I mean this one's brand new, I've not even taken the float chamber off it. What can you do though? You know, if it's going to leak petrol like that, I've got to take the carburetor off. I can't set it up, although it sounds like the crankshaft is knackered. It didn't really have the improved compression that I was looking for. I was looking for a lot more compression, and I must admit that crank does sound a bit like a crankshaft knock. I've never really heard a crankshaft knock, but it did sound like there was some definite tapping and knocking going on in there. So this isn't really what I expected. I expected it to be much better than this, but it isn't. So there you go, you live and learn, don't you? This one has probably had it with me because we've been through a lot, and this last 150 quid all that engine work, and that's really, I've had it with this. You know, you can go so far, you can budget such a lot of time and money, and this one, I'm afraid, no wonder it was someone's donor bike, you know, because it really is a piece of shit. Well, thanks for watching that, and thanks for watching all the other videos and things about this rusty old DTR, but I think it's finally, you know, it's going to pay the price of not working out for me. You know, it's just going to either rot somewhere or get sold off. That's too bad, isn't it? burning off the front of it. And it could just be spilt oil burning off the front of the exhaust there. And what I've done is I've changed the position of the Yamaha power valve. And it's made an improvement, I think. Obviously the carburettor has got a big problem. I've changed the float settings so it doesn't drip, but I don't think the float is now giving the bike enough petrol, so I've got to make another adjustment on it. It's difficult to know what to measure it at when it's a Chinese knockoff which leaked out of the factory, you know, so it's a bit hit and miss. That it's a bit of a nightmare. I don't know whether it was my imagination, but it just sounded a little better.